Fear reflexes. I've been putting some posts on my Facebook page over the last couple of weeks about the fear reflexes, starting with the fear paralysis reflex, moving on to the Moro reflex. And I have talked about them before, but they are the most common reflex problem I see in clinic. So I think it's always worth a revisit. So as always, if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments, or if you want to send me a private message, you can do that and I'll reply. If there's anything you'd like me to talk about specifically in the future, then also please pop it in the comments or send me a message, and I'm very happy to maybe do a particular live on something that you're particularly struggling with. So the fear reflexes are really important developmentally, and the big problem with them is that they don't necessarily make you frightened, but they stop you from feeling safe. So if you don't feel safe in your environment, then you will try and manipulate things to try and make yourself feel safe, or you will behave in a certain way in order to try and make yourself feel safe. So from very simple things like checking things more than once, or wanting things organised in a particular way, to really quite severe pathology. A lot of that can have its roots in retained either fear paralysis reflex or retained Moro reflex. And the problem with that is that it's an externalization of an internal discomfort. So primitive reflexes, very simply, are movement patterns that allow our brains to develop as they should and allow our bodies to develop as they should. And when we don't fulfill those movement patterns properly, they get stuck and they remain unintegrated. And what I look to do is use movement to try and encourage those reflexes to integrate. So very briefly, fear paralysis reflex shuts down the whole system. It does exactly what it says. It paralyzes the system. So it can be part of, when we see it in children, we see it as breath holding, selective mutism, anything where children are not able to move or express themselves. So we see it in very, very good children as well. Terribly, terribly well-behaved children can be a sign of a retained fear paralysis reflex. And all of these reflexes can be retained profoundly or slightly. So you can have a slightly retained fear paralysis reflex or a profoundly retained fear paralysis reflex. So it's also associated with things like some allergies, fear of trying new things, problems with leaving home, problems with transitions generally. And it's a reflex that is present probably from the point of conception, but it's the very first reflex to develop, and then that sort of becomes the Moro reflex, sort of morphs into the Moro reflex, although both are present for some time at around about 3 months of pregnancy. And the Moro reflex is probably the only reflex that people have heard of, and it's the baby startle reflex. So it's the reflex that when your baby is jarred or there's a loud noise, does that sort of gasp and flings its arms out and will then cling on and cry. And there's two parts to that reflex. There is the shock part and the clinging and crying part, and that reflex is linked a lot to temper tantrums, to children who can't modulate their behaviour, so they're very over emotional, they're very reactive, they can get very easily upset, they can be very domineering, very controlling, finding it difficult to play with other children. Again, this is another reflex that's linked to allergies, to food allergies, sugar cravings, cravings of things like white carbohydrates or beige foods, chicken nuggets and chips, that sort of thing, because it's a very high alert state. So it's very, very hypervigilant, and to be in that state of hypervigilance, you need access very quickly to sugar. So sugar is sweets or white carbohydrates that can be very quickly converted. So we see those reflexes underpin a lot of emotional problems where people come with emotional problems. Again, anxiety, big one for anxiety, problems with leaving the house, problems with transitions, problems with controlling behaviour. So if those are issues that you struggle with or that you have children that struggle with, then do get in touch because I can help. And a neurodevelopment movement program is very simple. It's quite a lot of fun. It should be pleasurable to do. If it's not fun to do, then we need to find something else to do. There's lots of flexibility within it. If it's something that you're interested in as a parent or as a professional, either another therapist, then I do also train. I've got some training coming up. So if you're interested in that, then do have a look on my page. Again, it's a really interesting thing to learn, really useful if you do any kind of body work or any kind of counselling. It fits really, really well within that. You can incorporate it into what you're already doing or come along and learn and treat it as a standalone therapy. So ask any questions if you've got any, and thanks for watching. Okay, bye.